I'm the director of the Inner City Capital Connections program. As we get started, just a couple of housekeeping issues. Please go ahead and rename yourselves, first name and last name, and preferably the name of your organization. And mute yourselves throughout the presentations. There will be plenty of time for conversation after the short presentation. Without further ado, let me turn the mic over to our CEO, Steve Grossman.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Diego, and thank you to your entire leadership team. This cohort, the combination of Colorado and Washington State, is led by Anna Marie Cruz, our Western Regional Manager. It's led also by Maria Tata, our Colorado Lead Program Coordinator, and Indira or Indy Taveras, our Washington Lead Program Coordinator. So the combination of Diego, Anna Marie, Maria, Indy, and a team of a dozen professionals who run the Inner City Capital Connections program are thrilled to meet all of you and look forward to working with you on this inaugural Colorado-Washington cohort. I want to thank you all for joining us and welcome to the kickoff event for this inaugural Colorado and Washington Inner City Capital Connections cohorts. As the racial justice and equity movement accelerated earlier this year in the wake of George Floyd's murder and other events, our partners at Kaiser Permanente, the nation's largest nonprofit healthcare delivery system, felt a growing sense of urgency to offer our Inner City Capital Connections program in every major region throughout the United States. And this combined Colorado-Washington cohort quickly developed. Let me just share with you a few details of the relationship between ICIC and Kaiser Permanente around the Inner City Capital Connections program. It all began in 2016 when we jointly ran our first cohort in Los Angeles. And from one cohort in Los Angeles in 2016, it's grown to 10 separate cohorts in 2020, covering every major region of the United States where Kaiser Permanente has a footprint. As many of you may be aware, but not all, we survey our alumni of our ICCC program annually. And in the first 3 years since Kaiser Permanente embraced the ICCC program, the following are the results. Companies that have graduated from the program have had average revenue growth of 45%. We can document the creation of almost 1,400 good-paying jobs. And companies which have participated have raised just shy of $67 million of debt and equity capital. And that's just the beginning. And what you see on your screen are the overall aggregate results for the program since we started in 2005 with a grant, an initial grant from Bank of America. Over 21,000 jobs created, over $2.2 billion of capital raised, and average revenue growth of 120%. We hope the small businesses that you will help us recruit, that you will nominate for both Colorado and Washington State, will have equally significant results, even during this time of great economic challenge. ICIC, which is the Initiative for a Competitive Inner City, was created 26 years ago by Harvard Business School professor, Dr. Michael Porter, to revitalize America's under-resourced communities. By providing small businesses with executive education concerning strategy, marketing, entrepreneurial finance, team building, leadership and leadership development, as well as providing one-on-one coaching and access to capital, small business ecosystems are the goal, and that is exactly what we try to develop in every major community in which we work. Fundamentally, our goal is to help narrow this country's racial wealth gap. Unfortunately, during the first 5 days of the COVID crisis, 5 months, I should say, of the COVID crisis, disparities have been deeply distressing, disappointing, and destructive. Access to capital, emergency technical assistance, one-on-one coaching have been severely limited, particularly for minority-owned businesses trying to survive. ICIC is here to help level the playing field and provide tools and strategies to help small businesses survive and thrive. As you learn, our opening seminars for the Colorado-Washington State Joint Cohort will take place on November 17th and 19th. This is one of 17 cohorts we'll offer virtually in locations and for small businesses all over the country. And before I introduce our first two speakers, let me just recognize a few individuals. First, the Honorable Michael Hancock, Mayor of the City of Denver, Rosie Alberto McDonough, Director of the Colorado Minority Business Office, Lee Gash Maxey, Executive Director of the Colorado Black Chamber of Commerce, Mike Ferrofino, CEO and Director of the Colorado Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Jonathan Liebert, CEO of the Better Business Bureau of Southern Colorado, and Ekta Marcoulier, Executive Director of the Small Business Development Center. We're thrilled that you're all here. And now let me introduce our first two speakers, David Grossman and Amy Whited. David Grossman, I smiled when I saw your name because I have a 44-year-old eldest son who was just here at our house. His name is nothing other than David Grossman. So I know we're probably not related, but it's thrilling to meet you. David Grossman is Senior Medical Director for Community Health and External Relations for Kaiser Permanente, Washington, and National Senior Medical Director for Kaiser Permanente, the entire organization. He joined Group Health Kaiser Permanente in 2004 after serving 15 years as a professor of pediatrics and health services at the University of Washington and Harborview Medical Center. Dr. Grossman served 9 years as a member and chair of the U.S. Preventive Service Task Force and has also been a member of the CDC Community Preventive Services Task Force. David will be followed directly, and he will actually hand the mic, proverbially speaking, to Amy Whited. Amy Whited is the Executive Director of Marketing, Communications, and Community Health and Engagement for Colorado. Amy also leads the communication team that highlights Kaiser Permanente's commitment to be an industry leader in improving the health of its members, elevating the health of Coloradans through groundbreaking research, advancing care delivery, innovation, and strategically investing in community health. And one fun fact, before Amy became part of the healthcare world and became part of the Kaiser Permanente organization, Amy Whited spent 22 years in communications, including 10 years with CBS News based in New York City. So first, we're going to hear from David Grossman, representing Kaiser Permanente, Washington. Immediately following that, we'll hear from Amy Whited, representing Kaiser Permanente of Colorado. And then Amy will pass the microphone back to my colleague, Diego Portillo Mazal. Thank you, David, and thank you, Amy, for playing such a critical role in helping to kick off this important community effort to build small business ecosystems in your respective communities. David?
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here and appreciate your warm welcome and also the story of your son. Good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to welcome you here on behalf of Kaiser Permanente, Washington. I'm really excited about this event and about the work that is before us. I think, as many of you know, the mission of Kaiser Permanente is to provide high quality, affordable healthcare, and really also extremely importantly to improve the health of the members and the communities that we serve. So health improvement is really what we're all about. And for those of you that aren't familiar with us, here in Washington, we're one of the largest nonprofit health plans in the state of Washington, with about 700,000 members served by approximately 1,500 clinical providers. We've been in Washington since 2017, and after the acquisition of Group Health Cooperative, which I was also affiliated with. And both organizations share a very strong legacy of improving the health of the community and commitment to community health. We also recognize at KP that health is very much only minorly influenced by healthcare, but in a much more major way shaped by socioeconomic factors that influence a community's access to food, transportation, housing, and economic opportunity. We also recognize that small business is the backbone of our communities in which we're located. and that the presence and success of small business is a critical part of community well-being. So not only do they provide services, but they provide jobs, which provides the economic vitality of our communities. And we are deeply invested in ensuring that small businesses reach their full potential. So, but during in times of downturn, I think it's important to recognize that traditionally marginalized communities experience disproportionate impacts. And so some recent data from the National Bureau of Economic Research says that about 41% of Black-owned businesses and 32% of Latinx businesses actually have disappeared due to COVID. And in Washington, we're experiencing those same impacts with many closures. Over 1,300 small businesses have closed throughout the Puget Sound area just since the start of COVID. So for the past several years, Kaiser Permanente has been fully committed to increasing economic opportunity in the communities that we serve throughout the 8 states, the 8 parts of the United States and 8 regions. A big focus on small business that are marginalized and under-resourced. And now we're doubling down on that commitment by bringing this program here into the Washington region. We nationally announced $60 million in investments and $40 million in grant funding nationally to address both systemic racism as well as the lack of economic opportunity that have for far too long have persisted and also prevented communities of color, especially Black communities, from achieving total health. So our investments overall will support approximately 2,000 businesses owned by Black and other represented groups, providing loans and grants, access to training, business networks, and recovery and growth capital. So we're very excited to participate and contribute to that effort. Equity and inclusion have always been a part of the organizational fabric of KP since its founding 75 years ago, and that we believe that good health is a human right. We also believe that we can do our part to help end systemic racism, and as well the economic injustice that prevent communities of color from achieving total health and well-being. So today we honor that commitment through this effort and the support of the Inner City Capital Connections program. And as we all know, this initiative really is focused and designed to support small business and promote inclusive economic prosperity. So on behalf of Kaiser Permanente Washington, I'm really pleased to welcome you to this launch event. And we really appreciate you taking the time to learn about this program and hope that you will nominate businesses in your network to be part of this next cohort. Thank you so much, and I'll turn over to you, Amy.
Great, thank you so much, David. Are you all able to hear me?
We are, Amy.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here today. I wish that we were able to gather in person and we would be able to have some in-person networking with some of you, but you know, the webinar Zoom is our next best option during this pandemic. But very happy to be here today. I'm Amy White, the Executive Director of Marketing, Communications, and Community Health and Engagement for Kaiser Permanente, Colorado. Our regional president, Mike Ramsire, really wanted to be here today, and he sends his regards. He had a medical situation he's dealing with his family, so he's unable to be here today, but really huge supporter of this program and very excited about it getting off the ground. Just, you know, briefly, for those of you who aren't familiar with Kaiser Permanente in Colorado, we're one of the largest nonprofit health plans in the state. We have more than 600,000 members and 1,200 physicians in the communities along Colorado's Front Range. We've been here for more than 50 years, and as a nonprofit, it's our mission to focus on the health of our members and our communities. And so we're here today to continue that tradition of improving community health, and we know that economic vitality is a key contributor to good health, yet not everyone has access to the same opportunities. For example, life expectancy can differ by as much as 20 years in neighborhoods only about 5 miles apart from one another, and income is one of the major contributors to the gap in health. We're proud to support the work of this ICCC program because it improves the economic health of under-resourced business owners, their employees, and the entire community. Colorado businesses are no different than other communities across the nation who have experienced substantial hardship during the impact of COVID-19. Many small businesses lack resources, access to capital, and the capacity to build timely business recovery strategies. This program will help provide support, relevant education, and much needed resources to our minority-owned small business owners in Colorado and other areas of the country. And as you've heard, the truly great thing about this national partnership is that this program has already been successful in other areas across Kaiser Permanente's footprint. So we are very excited to be bringing this here to Colorado in support of our small businesses in our state. So on behalf of Kaiser Permanente Colorado, I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your very busy schedules and joining us for today's kickoff event. And Diego, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you, Amy. We're also very proud to have with us, oops, we keep jumping forward. Give us a second. We have very proud to have with us Eric Hirata, who will give the next set of remarks. Can we go back to Eric's presentation slide? I'm sorry. Eric, as Executive Director of the Economic Development and Opportunity Office at the City of Denver Mayor's Office. Eric?
Great. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. I'm honored to be here on behalf of Mayor Michael B. Hancock and the City and County of Denver. I am the Executive Director of Denver Economic Development and Opportunity. Our vision is to lead an inclusive and innovative economy for all Denver residents, businesses, and neighborhoods. This program could not be more aligned with our goals as a city to provide equitable opportunities for all Denver residents and create and rebuild an inclusive economy. Small businesses are the heart and soul of our city, and they don't just create jobs and build wealth, but also make so much of our culture, history, and character of our neighborhoods. We all know that COVID-19 has had a severe effect on Denver businesses, especially small and minority-owned businesses, as discussed earlier. Now, more than ever, it is critically important that we provide the services and supports to help them through this crisis and to help prepare them for the future. We see firsthand through our work with small, minority, and women-owned businesses that access to capital and capacity building is what they need the most. And with equity and inclusivity at the very forefront of our city's values, we could not be more thrilled that Inner City Capital Connections program is coming to Denver and Colorado. We look forward to this partnership. Thank you, Kaiser Permanente, for your leadership. And thank you, ICIC, Steve Grossman, for all you are doing to help make a difference in Denver, in the metro area, in Colorado. We thank you all.
Thank you again, Eric. Appreciate your comments. And we're going to go straight to one of our great partners, nominators, advocates, champions, who's been working with us on several cohorts throughout the country. I want to introduce Janice Green, PhD, President and CEO of the WEBEC Pacific Women's Business Enterprise Council in the Pacific region. Janice?
I'm sorry, I was muted. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. Kaiser, we really appreciate your support, and Steve and Diego and team, thank you for inviting me and giving me and WEBEC Pacific certified women-owned businesses the opportunity to participate. I've been working with ICCC now for 3 years. I've been, well, a little bit less than 3 years, but I've been in this position for 3 years, and it has been a great partnership for us. I think the programs that are offered have been substantial for the women businesses that we've put through this program. So I think ICIC is a leading resource for small business development and underserved communities. And I'm so glad that you're coming to Washington, that's where I live, and really appreciate the work you've done all up and down the West Coast and the regions that we support. WEBEC Pacific If you don't know, we provide WeBank certifications. We're one of the most recognized and trusted women business enterprise certifications in the U.S. And we offer access to information, services, programs, events, and educational courses and other resources that help create business opportunities for women. This year, we also have a specific focus on Black woman-owned businesses because they've been disproportionately impacted, negatively impacted by the pandemic. I believe and that WeBank Pacific and ICIC programs complement each other, and that's what's been the great part of working with ICIC. WeBank Pacific supports women business owners and entrepreneurs that are looking to build their business and enhance their knowledge and expand their networks and grow their revenue through contracts with corporations, government agencies, and other women business enterprises. Inner City Capital has provided much needed capacity building, education, one-on-one coaching, and all of that, especially the access to capital and some of the components to putting your business in a position to thrive. And that's very much appreciated. So since we're kind of on the same path and we're positioning entrepreneurs for success, I think it's even more critical in this pandemic environment, the programming that ICCC or offers. This helps build with business recovery, and it's real-time, on-time curriculum that helps companies navigate through this business environment. So they've been a proven partner and very helpful to the businesses that we've referred. So I will continue to make sure that we nominate businesses. And the fact that you're putting these businesses in, you're helping these businesses also in underserved communities and creating wealth in those communities. So I guess I just want to end with a thank you. It's been our pleasure to collaborate with ICCC, and we're looking forward to the future, more collaboration. So thank you.
Thank you, Janice. It's always a pleasure. And as you said, I know you've been waiting for us to come to your hometown because you've met us in every other cohort, from Portland to LA to coming to Boston to the national conference. So really appreciate the partnership.
Yeah, we're happy to have you in Seattle area.
And next, I want to introduce one of our alumni program participants from our 2019 Portland cohort. Give me 1 second here, my technology is failing. Julie Valdez, owner and CEO of Pacific Office Solutions. As I said, Julie participated in the 2019 Portland cohort. She's the head of a business dedicated to sustainability, community, and diversity. They've been around for 32 years, and they sell office, janitorial, industrial, and electrical supplies to the public sector and large businesses. Julie and Pacific Office Solutions strives to grow diversity within business, build innovative paths towards enriching the community, and foster business relationships with individuals representative of various backgrounds. With that, I'd like to invite Julie to share some of the ways and the experiences she had in the Portland cohort and how this has allowed her to develop professionally and personally. Julie?
Thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to Janice Green. I didn't realize you were going to be on the call this morning. Thank you very much for nominating me last year to the Portland cohort. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to share a few minutes. I appreciate being able to speak, but to just give you some ideas of what I learned and share about my experiences with ICIC. First of all, I was able to attend the opening event in Portland. And I want to say that I've attended events all over the United States, of course, in the number of years I've been in business, but the quality of this event and the quality of the speakers was outstanding. I'm still, probably the best speaker that had an impact on me was, there was a speaker from, I believe it was Harvard, talking about, it was a human resources speaker, and it was, I'm still using the things that he shared in that event. Also, a able to attend many of the webinars, not necessarily at the time that they were given, but afterwards using the app. The part of the ICIC event also, they have an app where you can go in and access all the webinars after they've been presented. And I want to say I watched the cybersecurity webinar one evening, and it was actually a week. I wish I had seen it live because it was a week after we had a key employee fall victim to a phishing scam. It's like, I wish I would have watched that event live and had the opportunity to see it. But the webinars were outstanding, and they were, I think everybody is having a lot of opportunity to attend webinars these days. It seems like there are Zoom meetings and webinars constantly that we're being presented with, but nothing can compare to the actual live event of the opening event at ICIC, as well as the webinars. We have grown very much as a company. Ironically, I was looking at the 2018 growth rate was 63%, and that's exactly what we grew last year, was the 63%. Not so much this year, but we are very fortunate this year, I feel, to be, we've had an 80% reduction in our office supply sales, but overall we're only down 13%. Our community, my company is a hub zone and a disadvantaged small business certified, and we're actually located in a hub zone. And Yakima has been hit especially hard by the COVID virus, just with many of the essential workforce folks actually coming down and contracting COVID, but also all the small businesses are closing. So that's why I feel so especially fortunate to be able to participate in the Seattle cohort and help learn and to bring the resources and things to my business that I can help support my community. And being able to do this with almost no travel is just outstanding. And I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. I couldn't have prepped the next part better. I think you've all heard from Julie a number of the things that are the outstanding features of the program, but you're probably at this point asking yourself, what exactly does the program look like? So over the next couple of minutes, I and my colleague Anna Marie Cruz will take you through what the program looks like and then what the ask is. And obviously the ask in some ways is, again, that you've helped us identify the companies that would benefit from this program. The program itself is a 4-part program. Julie referenced a number of them. The first is the opening seminar, and our opening seminar this year is being held, as you can imagine, in virtual formats. So it is a 2 half-day session program. We get professors from across the country to teach strategy, entrepreneurship, marketing, talent management, entrepreneurial finance. We do a panel of resource providers in the area, and we give opportunities for the businesses to interact and network with each other. As Julie said, this is followed by a series of webinars. We will host somewhere between 1.5 and 2 dozen webinars. And this year, we ask that participants choose the 6 that are most valuable to their businesses and to the needs that they have at this time. The beauty of this is obviously that they are recorded. So we've heard of entrepreneurs not only just watching them on the app, but also watching them at all kinds of hours when it's convenient for them. We follow this up with coaching, and coaching for us takes 2 main tracks. One, obviously, because of our name, is capital coaching. That still is one of the factors that small business owners cite repeatedly as the strongest obstacle to their growth. So we help them put together a pitch document. or a pitch deck and meet with a finance professional, whether it be a banker or a CDFI lender or an equity investor, who can look at this and give them feedback on their pitch and get them ready for an eventual meeting. The other side of this is also business technical advising. And we will work with organizations like Pacific Community Ventures, SCORES, the SBDCs, the chambers, and more to provide a menu of opportunities for our business owners to identify the obstacles that they're going through and find the right resource. What often happens is that business owners will tell us that they've heard that there's resources out there and that these things become things that they're going to do the next time they have a weekend free to research what coaching resources they might need. And if you all have worked with small business owners, you probably know the last time that they had a free weekend to do research. So us being able to connect them, make a one-on-one introduction and have a conversation and say, these two resources might be the best for you, and maybe a start. And then the next time you need a different type of coach, come back and we'll help you find the other coach. So the coaching, in many cases, it can be as short as a couple hours to get some clarity on your QuickBooks, or in some cases, it has now been ongoing for a couple years through SCORE or PCV or more. And then finally, the national conference. This brings together, and again, this year in virtual format, brings together the participants from our 17 cohorts and alumni from past years. So the networking, learning, and interactions that can happen in one cohort with local resources gets amplified manyfold when you see 600 or 700 or more business owners from across the country in your industry and in other industries. This program has also adapted in some ways in this year to COVID-19. Obviously, we talked about the fact that it's being delivered in virtual format, which does provide some advantage to business owners and allows us to cover larger geographical reach. We also have made some specific asks of every professor and every panelist and every person delivering a webinar to think about how their area of expertise is being affected by the current moment. So what is going on in the landscape, what is going on in those particular regions, and to adapt that. So it's not just strategy, but it is strategy in a COVID-19 world. It's strategy in a community that may be already opening or not, or whatever it is that we're seeing week to week as we go throughout the country. In addition, we've expanded the coaching program to develop more access points so participants who apply today for a cohort that isn't happening until late September, October, or November can already access coaching, can already access the webinars, and can get started on their journey. We also heard from some business owners that trying to network with 65 or 75 other business owners was difficult, wasn't always comfortable for everyone. So we've created smaller CEO groups of non-competitors to get together and continue their brainstorming, continue their learning, be a sort of accountability and brain trust for each other. Indy, we'll go to the next slide, if you please. As I mentioned, we updated our program criteria just a little bit. We still want independent, for-profit or nonprofits, businesses. We want to meet the business owner, the key decision makers at the program. They are headquartered or have 51% of its physical operations in economically distressed areas or hire primarily from those areas. This does give us a little bit of leeway in, and we use multiple definitions of economically distressed areas, whether that be our own definition of inner city, LMIs, occasionally heat maps with health disparities, opportunity zones, hub zones, and more, as a way of trying to encapsulate what economically distressed communities might mean. In addition, we also pay attention to some additional things that you may tell us. So if there is an immigrant community that isn't geographically located in one place but has been historically underserved, we will absolutely take that into consideration. The businesses are past proof of concept stage. We do not work with startups. There are plenty of organizations, many of whom are on this call, who serve that particular group. They have different challenges. Most of the businesses in our portfolio have been around for quite a while. The average age of the businesses in our program is 10 years and more. So more than 2 years old, past proof of concepts, and we do have conversations with each one of the business owners. We do not reject businesses per se. We refer them out to some of those partners. Many of you, once again, many of you may be on this call. So we will find an incubator program. We will find a coaching program that will fit them better before we turn them away. What you will not see this year is a revenue criteria. In the past, we worked with businesses that were doing $500,000 in revenue or more. This year, we know and we've seen the proof that it's been the smallest and the businesses, those owned by people of color, that have been hit the hardest. So we're trying to reach out to those businesses and relax the revenue criteria. Andy will go on from there. I'm going to turn the mic over to my colleague, Anna Marie Cruz, who will now make the tough ask and lead you through what our nomination and application process is.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Marie Cruz. I'm based in Long Beach, California. I'm the only non-Boston-based person on the team. And prior to joining ICIC, I was actually in the, I share the experience that many of you have. I was actually a lender, and I worked for a community lender, one of the largest CDCs and CDFI in Southern California. And as a lender, one of the things I really wanted to make sure was that when we funded that loan, that the business owner was able to not only use that those funds for the right purpose, but they were able to continue their growth. So for me, having been a past nominator, a partner to the ICCC program, I understood the value of capacity building and having access to the various components of this program, whether it's the education, the strategic thinking, or the tactical tools that business owners are able to implement, or having a sounding board from a coach would serve them in their journey. So today I want to share with you why it is that you are here in the room. As just in my experience in the past, the main reason is you are the stewards of our small businesses, of the small business community, whether you're in Washington State or Colorado. And as such, I know that you also feel the same, that you want your business owners in the community to have access to the best resources possible. And not only that, perhaps to resources that are actually fully funded. So in your shoes today, what I'd like for you to think about is how we can all work together to bring together this inaugural cohort comprising of businesses that are ready to learn, ready to be coached, ready to support one another. So primarily, I want to focus on two things that you will do. One is to identify these businesses that you believe would benefit from the program, would really like to be in this environment of learning and again, of support from their peers. So identifying these businesses, as many as you would like, and then number two, to communicate with them and with us that these are businesses that you believe will be a great fit for the program. So how you would communicate this with us is very simple. You can either upload your list of nominations directly on our website, or if you have more than 6 nominations, we're happy to work with you. We have a great worksheet that we can provide you for that. The most important piece, though, is that they are made aware of the nomination, because you can only imagine that once we receive their information and we conduct our own outreach, they may not know about us, they may not know who we are, and they may dismiss that opportunity just because they are not familiar with us. Whereas they know you, they know your intentions, having been on their side in their own journey. So obviously that means a lot when they hear from you. So after you identify the businesses, after you communicate it with us and with them, what we then do is conduct outreach directly to the nominees. We encourage them to apply. So the nomination does not mean application or acceptance into the program. It's simply that they have been identified for the program. So once we conduct outreach to them, we will encourage them to go through the formal application, which is a very short process. We want to know more about their program, their interests, whether it's a mutual fit. And as Diego mentioned, if it is not a fit, we want to make sure that we continue to look at the ecosystem locally and provide them the right resource. So if, for example, they're an earlier stage business, we want to ensure that they connect with an incubator type of organization. So that's another reason why we want to get to know you and understand what your capacity is, so that we can better serve this ecosystem. Now, once they apply, they go through an interview process. That's when we determine the fit. And then once we admit them into the program, they will be one of 75 or 80 businesses within that cohort. After they go through that virtual seminar, you saw the other parts of that wheel. We have the webinars, coaching, and the national conference. This program is really designed to be self-paced, which is wonderful for our busy entrepreneurs, but it is also high touch in many ways. While they participate in a lot of these webinars on their own time, with their own selection, they also get to participate in these pods where they get plenty of support from one another. All right, Indy, let's go to the next slide.
Hold on, before you move on, Anna Marie, I think one of the questions that came up, and I think it's great and very appropriate. Gary asks, what is the time commitment for the businesses once they've been nominated? We generally have lightly say this is a 40-hour commitment, with half of that time being between the opening seminar and the national conference. That, again, this will vary dramatically once you get into counting the coaching or counting the webinars. If this is based on the fact that a business watches 6 webinars and does a few hours of coaching. So that's more or less the average commitment. Some business owners have watched all 18 webinars and ended up working with 4 different coaches, and the time's grown quite a bit from at that point. But so I think 30 to 40 hours is an average commitment for the business owners, and that's between the start and the end of the program. So it's a couple of months in which they do that. And Erica, at 75 to 80 business owners in the cohort, that is combined for Washington and Colorado. Again, we're trying to make sure that the opening seminar is interactive, and we get feedback from the professors that once you get much past about 80 businesses in the room, the interaction between them and the professors starts to decline quite from there.
regarding the amount of time they dedicate, I do want to say that we encourage, obviously, business owners to participate in as many components as possible, because you get out of the program what you put into it. And we do have a lot of repeat alumni who say that even in their second time around in the program, they get something different, or they get more out of it than they did the first time. So it's definitely self-paced, but also highly encouraged to participate as much as possible. So just some dates to keep in mind. You're probably wondering why the seminar is not taking place until November, but we're talking about the program in September. Well, we do have quite a bit going on between now and November 17th and 19th. First of all, we again want to ensure that businesses and our networks and partners are aware of the program. But a couple of key deadlines to think about are October 9th, which is the nomination deadline, and then October 23rd, which is the application. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And as our partners, you are absolutely welcome to join us on the seminar days on November 17th and 19th, happening from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific and 8 a.m. to 12:30 Pacific. My apologies for the background noise. Of course, now is the time when our gardener comes. But we will now, I think we have time for questions, but these are, we'll send you all of this information, by the way, so no need to jot these down. But we'd love to hear any questions, any concerns, perhaps even, if you care to share some ideas about the program, or any outreach strategies, or anything else. I'll turn it over to Diego because of the background noise.
I do think that the two greetings in this era of Zoom have become, sorry, I was on mute, and sorry for the background noise.
Pretty much.
So with that in mind, I'll open it up for any questions that have remained as a result of this.
Diego, this is Steve. While people are collecting their thoughts and coming up with thoughts or questions, I lost the call for about 10 minutes. I don't know what the technology issues were on this end, so I missed Janice Green's remarks. But yesterday, when we did the kickoff for our Central California cohort, we had 108 small businesses on the call on day one of the seminar. I pay tribute to Janice Green because Janice Green and her colleagues at WeBank nominated 26 companies that were in the room. I'll put in the room in quotes because all virtual. And Janice, you have been such an extraordinary friend, colleague, partner, and visionary in terms of lifting up business owners and giving them the tools to be able to compete and win. And we are so blessed to be your colleagues and your friends, and to have you such an integral part of this program in every part of the country where you have relationships. So Diego may have already said that, but if he did, I'm happy to repeat it. If he didn't, I want to make sure it is said, because we don't have a better or more vibrant nominating partner than WeBank and Janice Green.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. You guys have been great partners for us, and I've gotten nothing but excellent feedback from the WBEs that have attended your sessions. So thank you.
I do think I missed the one final selling point. This is entirely tuition free for the participants. Normally I would talk about the cost of travel this year. That's not a factor either. So their biggest cost is their time. And obviously I will say the other request is that business owners answer our follow-up surveys, because we do want to track the impact of the program. See a question from Steve about geographic boundaries. In this case, we are expanding it to both Colorado and Washington State. There obviously is some additional focus on Denver, but the city boundaries are not as important. let me answer some other questions and then I'll bring it back to Leila. We will share again the presentation and collateral materials. There is a 2-pager that you can share with business owners and other interested parties. In addition, if you are thinking about how you want to position it, if you need additional language for an introduction email, or you're thinking about different strategies for outreach, please get in touch with any of us and we're happy to work with that on that. Amy, you had a question about revenue being taken into consideration. Yes, as I said, this year we are trying to reach and serve the businesses that are making significantly less than 500,000. We know that those are the businesses that have had the hardest time reaching and accessing resources this year, whether it be the PPP or other programs. So we are definitely seeing a smaller group this year than normal. We also make some considerations for industry. We know that it's very different to say $500,000 in revenue in construction than it is for a barber shop or a daycare. So absolutely, the revenue guideline served as purely as a guideline. This year, it's also very much interested in the work. In terms of follow-up cohorts, this is an inaugural joint cohort. Kaiser's plan is to have us host individual cohorts in Seattle and in Denver next year. So this is the start of an ongoing work and not just a one-time thing. For the moment, as we work through this year, the only language accommodation that we are prepared for is Spanish. We are doing some Spanish language translation and some Spanish language webinars for this year. We hope to expand that going forward if there is need, but this year, Spanish is the one language that we are working with. I saw a question there about the guideline and whether we had goals in terms of diversity. We do not have set quotas or goals per se. We do absolutely know that we are going to focus on trying to reach to underserved communities. Our program ends up being about 75% minority-owned businesses. We have done a tremendous amount of outreach to women-owned businesses, and they represent about half the businesses in our cohorts, in any given cohort, in any given year. But I will turn it back over to Leila from KP and give her a chance to talk a little bit about the Kaiser Permanente commitment to DEI and equity this year.
Hi, Diego. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Leila Batmangalich. I'm a senior program manager with Kaiser Permanente Community Health in the Washington region. And in addition to our expanded partnership with ICCC and Inner-City Capital Connections to support businesses led by people of color, Kaiser Permanente has expanded our partnerships with the Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC, the nation's largest community development organization, and Pacific Community Ventures, a national nonprofit CDFI. And together, these three organizations have expertise in the needs of small business owners, and they provide pro bono coaching, business advising, and access to fair capital. And so while we know the ICCC folks will send out the deck after the meeting, if you'd like to learn more about these opportunities, please email me for Washington opportunities, and my colleague Andrea Law in Colorado, for those of you in Colorado, and we'll just drop our contact information to the chat. So please feel free to get in touch to learn more about some of these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila. A couple other questions I see. Jessica asking that the economically distressed area requirements are somewhat flexible indeed. Won't say flexible, I'll say they are broad. So all the business owners has to do is submit their address and we'll have a conversation. If the address doesn't immediately pop up as being in an under-resourced community, we will, as I said, have a conversation with the business owner about where they have their operations, where they do their work, etc. We have, for example, seen nonprofit organizations that do all their work in an under-resourced community, but have their office provided pro bono by a law firm in downtown. And so that ends up being a conversation. For those of you that have multiple businesses in your databases that you're questioning and thinking about, and you don't want to nominate someone who clearly does not fit in that, you could send us the addresses with no more than just the address, and we can tell you if that address geo-qualifies or not. So if you're looking at large databases and wanting to clean them before you send out an invitation, please be in touch with us because we can do that pre-screen and at least tell you which ones immediately geo-qualify. Outreach collateral is being in Spanish is being worked on, so please be in touch with me and or Anna Marie, and we'll make sure that you get that. And yes, we have worked with employee-owned businesses. Again, as long as a decision maker is coming to the event, that's what we want to see. We are actually looking to host a webinar a little later in the year about employee-owned businesses and how that structure may work for business owners who are considering restructuring their businesses. I think that covered all the questions that we had on here. If I missed anybody's question, please raise your hand and I'll take one quick look. I want to be conscious of people's times, but also answer every question.
Diego?
Yes.
This is Kevin Washington. I did put a question in. I'll just go ahead and state the question. I was glad to see that you added some attention to and adjustments for COVID-19. Lots of small businesses are suffering over the last 4 to 7 months. And my question was around whether or not this particular cohort is going to lean more heavily into business recovery strategies. People are just trying to stem the flow of bleeding when it comes to dollars and resources, just so that they can stay in business over the next 6 to 10 months.
Yes, absolutely. That is a conversation that we've had with as I said, with every one of the professors, with every one of the panelists, throughout our webinars, throughout the sessions. And I will make the point that I've been in contact with the professors pretty much every week to say what's going on. We will lean on you and we'll lean on the participants, ask questions before the session on what's really top of their mind at any given point, so that the professors are not just addressing this in broad terms, but often right down to, in the last couple of weeks, we've heard a lot of, I'll give you the example. In the last couple of weeks, we've heard a lot of business owners saying, okay, I made the first pivot, but what happens if there's a second shutdown and later in the year? How do I prepare for that? So we're looking at this, and this has made its evolution in the last few months from reopening techniques to forgiveness on the PPP to now considerations on a second shutdown So absolutely, the focus this year is on the immediate survival, resilience, and opportunity to thrive for those businesses that have been able to do it. So once again, I want to be conscious of everyone's time. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Julie and Janice, for sharing your experiences with us. Thank you to everyone who joined us today and shared your time. And please be in touch with us. Any other questions that you do have, Anna Marie and I are available, and the team is here. Maria Tata, Indy Tavares, and as Steve mentioned, almost a dozen professionals who make this possible. Thank you again, and look forward with working with all of you.